Greetings, my fellow gamers. 'Tis I, Wraith King, and welcome back to the Dark Kingdom. Today, we're taking a look at probably one of the easiest encounters in this raid. I'll just be honest, the last boss in this raid is so easy compared to the first boss. And of course, there is his first phase, which is not hard at all. It really isn't. It's not really a boss phase as much as it is just a small encounter in the raid. And coming here and fighting him and trying to deal damage to him is just so easy in this raid. It's much easier than the Garden of Salvation boss. And I have beaten that boss I don't know how many times. But of course, this is one of the first times I've actually battled this boss at all. He was quite difficult until we actually figured out a decent way to deal damage to him. And of course, over time, the community is going to come up with better ways to damage him, and there's going to be even better ways to fight him, more efficient ways, and people are going to figure this out. A lot of people are going to figure this out over time, and it won't just be a select few people who understand this raid. So, saying that, it's going to feel a little bit more difficult than what it should be at the start for everybody, because, well, again, not everybody really knows how to beat this raid, and only a few people do, so you're going to have to end up explaining to people how to actually finish this raid. It's going to be annoying, yes. It's always going to be annoying because you're going to have to teach people, and there's always going to be someone that you have to teach, and yes, that can be irritating at times, but not as irritating as, well, not finishing the raid at all. So I highly suggest you giving this raid a try, the full one, not just this encounter, although I am going to give you a small guide on how to actually beat this one. I would suggest you try your best to beat the entire raid because it makes this encounter seem a whole lot easier. Now, just to make this clear, you will not finish this on the first try. If you're just starting out, this is a new encounter to you, you will not finish this on the first try. That's just how it always is in these encounters, but that's fine. What you have to do is look for 3 buffs. There's a red buff, blue buff, and a yellow buff. Blue buff usually spawns by the orange light, and I believe the yellow one spawns by blue, and the red one usually spawns by, well, the area you spawned into once you started this encounter. I call these areas by their appearance orange, blue, and spawn because it's easier to remember. Because there's another part of these rooms that you need to remember, and giving them that name helps a lot. There's 2 boxes on each side of the room. There's 2 by spawn, 2 by orange, and 2 by blue. We like to call these boxes spawn 1, spawn 2, blue 1, blue 2, orange 1, and orange 2. Some people like to label these boxes numbers 1 through 6, but we found it a little easier just to remember these boxes by giving them 2 numbers and name them by the side of the map they're on. During the gameplay footage, you'll notice that I find a blue buff on one of the vandals over here. The red one will drop from an enemy that comes from spawn, and the yellow one will drop from an enemy by the blue lit side of the room. The reason I'm reminding you of this is because not only do you need to pick up the buff, but the boss will be headed to one of these sides of the room, and he will be starting a wipe mechanic. Now, this is where a lot of new players seem to struggle with this boss and die. It's because it's a little different. Really, it is. We have faced similar things in Destiny before, but it's kind of like a Mario boss because he starts aiming at areas with these little comets that come from the sky, or these meteorites or whatever, and he gives you a small time to move out of the way before you instantly die. During this time, you need to shoot at his front engines or the back engines or the side engines, whichever you guys are comfortable with. The important thing is to shoot 2 of his engines and knock out the nuclear core within them. Once you do that, 2 members of your fire team need to travel in groups of 2 towards the selected areas that you need to drop off these bombs. Now, how do you know which areas these are? Well, if you have someone with a yellow buff, remember the yellow buff I was telling you guys about earlier? The person with the yellow buff on your fire team will be able to tell you guys which of these boxes is open for you to drop those nuclear bombs. Because if you don't drop it within, I'd say I think it gives you about 10-15 seconds before it actually explodes on you. If you don't drop it within that time, well, all of you wipe, because hey, it's a bomb. You'll notice while you're carrying these bombs, the boss is going to try to stop you with this little purple void shield looking thing. The person with the red buff, their job is to shoot this off of you. No one else can do it but them. Now, once you get there, you'll notice something very interesting about these boxes. Even though they're the right one, it'll say offline. That's because the boss needs to be staggered before you can do it, because, well, he's locking the chests so you don't plant the bombs. The person with the blue buff is going to have to stun him. You'll notice these 3 little cameras on each sides of the map. 3 on orange, 3 on blue, and 3 on spawn. Make sure you get a good look at them before you start the raid if you're going to use the blue buff, because you're going to need to act fast when you have this blue buff, because your team has very little time before their bomb explodes and, well, you all wipe. So you need to be fast once you do this. After you knocked out the nuclear cores on the boss's engines, he will start to lock all the chests across the map where they need to drop off their bombs. Now, in order to stun him, right next to the boss, you'll notice these 3 little round cameras are levitating above the ground. They're very easy to notice. You'll see me going by them periodically in this encounter. You'll need to activate the ones that are close to the boss in order to stun him. Now, in order to activate these, all you need to do is stand underneath them and aim at the boss, shoot him once. You don't need to shoot him multiple times at all. This activates the camera, and you need to do the same to the other 2 that are next to the boss. This will stun him. This will unlock the chests that you need to drop the bombs inside of. Now, once you do this, you need to repeat this entire process again and destroy the last 2 engines on the boss so he can drop the last 2 bombs, and your raid team can deliver the last 2 bombs to the correct boxes. Once this happens, then you hit the damage phase. The boss will go to the center of the room, and he will activate a 2-layer shield around himself. The first layer of the shield is a plasma field. Do not step inside of the plasma field. The final layer of the shield is just a bubble with rotating debris all around it. You need to jump over the rotating debris and stand right in between the rotating debris layer and the plasma field. Do not step into the rotating debris, of course, because you'll die, and don't step into the plasma field because you'll take damage over the time, and you'll die. Now, as for damaging the boss, you can try using the bubble outside of the rotating debris, and your teammates can stand in that. You'll see me doing that in the background gameplay here. We'll stand inside of the bubble, and then once the boss activates his little shield, we'll jump inside, and then the warlock will drop his well. And that's when we start doing damage. Now, surprisingly, the damage phase for this is a little awkward. There's not too many good builds for damage phases right now. We've tried using the Anarchy, and that works great here. Another thing we have tried is the Xenophage, but so far we've noticed that the Anarchy probably does the best job here. You have a nice build with a slug shotgun with Vorpal, then you'd probably just do the most damage with that, we've noticed. But let's say you don't have the Anarchy, the Xenophage works just fine. This is a very high health boss, so you are going to need a Divinity, we've noticed, because it just does way more damage. This is a very high health boss. You're going to need to deal a lot of damage to him, and the Divinity helps perfectly with that. Here's just a quick tip for the Anarchy shotgun combo. Of course, you guys know just to shoot him 6 times with the Anarchy, switch to your shotgun, and then shoot at the crit area the Divinity has highlighted. You'll notice that I wasn't really doing that in the gameplay in the background, but I learned eventually and figured out that shooting it 6 times, he definitely took a lot more damage. One more thing I have to tell you guys about this, very, very important. Every once in a while, the boss will silence someone's buff on the ally team. and that means you have to switch your buff with someone else on your team. In order to switch your buff with someone on your team, you'll notice these 3 little terminals that are scattered across the map, one on orange, one on blue, and one by spawn. Go to one of them, press and hold your action button. I'm on PlayStation, so for me, it's square. To make this interaction a lot easier on us, we separate our raid team into groups of 2. Blue team, red team, and yellow team. So if one person on your team is carrying the buff, and they get the status effect called Deactivated Augment, this means they need to switch their buff with their team member. But all you gotta do is repeat this whole process 3 times, or 2 times if your team is an absolute beast. Then you come into the annoying part of the damage phase. That is his final bar of health, where he teleports around the map and uses his wipe mechanic constantly to try to kill you. It sounds hard, but it isn't really that hard. The slug shotgun has some decent range, but not enough range to keep up with the boss because he will be teleporting to all 3 areas of the map at random, activating his little rain of fire ability that he likes to use on you, all at the same time while having a wipe mechanic if you do not kill him in time. But you just have to keep an eye out where he is teleporting. Once that happens, just keep damaging him the best way you can, and he should die fairly quickly. Just remember to land all of your bullets, land all your anarchy shots. It's going to be a little difficult because, of course, the anarchy is a grenade launcher. It's kind of hard to aim that, but just remember to relax. It's not the end of the world. It's okay. That's the encounter, though. Once you beat him, well, you get your chest. You might get the rocket launcher. You might get some really cool loot. And one really cool thing about this chest is it does drop, like I said, the rocket launcher, but it also allows you to select a reward using your spoils of conquest. The rewards will be based off of what you have found in the raid already, which is pretty darn cool if you haven't found a good roll on your armor. But yeah, that's the encounter. It's a lot easier than Galaran, I can tell you that. And I used to run him 3 times a week in the past because, of course, I was trying to grind out the Terra, but now I'm going to try to grind out the rocket launcher. And I'm pretty sure most people in the community are going to be looking for boss saves, and they're going to farm out this rocket launcher by playing this 3 times a week as well. There might even be more efficient ways to kill this boss. Right now, Anarchy Shotgun Divinity is probably the best choice we have for beginning damage phases, but the final damage phase, it works pretty good there too, I'll be honest. It just requires some skill with shooting the Anarchy because, like I said, he teleports all over the place. But I hope you found this helpful. Oh, one last thing about raid encounters. This is just about raid encounters in general. Be calm, relax. If somebody doesn't get it the first time, they'll get it next time. Patience is very important, and I am so happy that I had a team that was patient enough with me because I'm just not the best player. You guys will notice in background gameplay, I'm just not that good, but these guys were patient with me. They understood my gameplay, and that was probably the most important thing, was your team understanding your gameplay. If they don't really understand your gameplay, they're going to have a hard time working with you. So if it be possible, as much as I really like LFG, it's a good idea to find some friends for raid encounters. Although, once this raid, like I said, is figured out a little bit more, it'll be a lot easier for people to understand. There'll be better techniques. There's going to be a whole lot more comfort with this raid if you give it some time. And well, that is all the time I have left for this video, my fellow gamers. I hope you found this guide somewhat helpful at all. It took me a while to actually beat this boss, as you guys know. I was finding some really good gameplay throughout the raid, really. I've been trying to find some really nice gameplay for you guys. And the final boss encounter was perfect. Really cool boss, really do like him. And of course he does drop the exotic rocket launcher, which I haven't found yet, but I will be taking a look at that exotic rocket launcher once I get it. I'll let you guys know when I find it on my Twitter, so follow me over there if you can. But until then, take it easy for me, my fellow gamers, and please do have a blessed day. Bye.